I graduated high school 10 years ago and college 6 years ago. But honestly, I don't believe it's preparing me for life. But how many people have you met truly believe their public school system or the college they went to prepared them for life? It's probably scary how many people do believe that. Because here's the thing, I'm a college advisor, so I can tell you firsthand that schools optimize kids to succeed in the institution, not life. That is not what the school system was designed for. It was not designed to help you be successful in life. Be good at taking a test? Yes. But why is that? First off, let's talk about how and why the tests are so important. The administration that runs the school, usually it runs a district, depends on the test because that is the metric they use to determine success. However, the problem is that when the metric becomes the goal, it ceases to be a metric and become important. Now we're seeing kids being forced to learn how to take tests because that is what's awarded and that is what most schools' fundings are dependent on. The higher your scores, the more money you get. The lower your scores, the less money you're going to get for anything. So learning is ignored and test taking is what is emphasized. Memorization is rewarded while actual thinking is ignored and neglected. That is why we're seeing so many things nowadays where kids are not allowed or not taught to think. They can take a test, but can they actually express themselves or articulate? Probably not. And as we're seeing more and more. And it's sad because no one's actually designing their lives or living a fully self-actualized life. They're not actually meeting their needs. And when the test becomes so important, failure is punished. But the thing is that failure is, as corny as it sounds, it is the first step in learning. That is how you learn to do anything in life. You fall and you get back up. I do stand-up comedy and I bombed my first freaking time. But if I were to take that as a verdict that I am a loser or I will never be a stand-up comedian, I wouldn't be where I am now. I've been doing it for 4 years and I've enjoyed it and I gotten better. Not perfect, or I'm not the heir apparent to Richard Pryor, but I got better at it by keep trying and trying to figure out where I messed up. Whereas in schools, you're given one chance to succeed and that's it. And if you do fail, that goes into your record and it creates this number called your GPA or your grade. And most kids don't recover from that, or they're taking away opportunities because their grade is low and they start to believe that they're stupid. What's worse is that kids aren't taught to build actual life skills. And I'm not talking about a trade, because that's really alternatives public schools offer for you. You can either go to trade school or college. Nothing's wrong with either one, but I feel like that shouldn't be an option. And even if those are your options, most people are not taught to self-author their lives or visualize the life they actually want. Kids are not taught to reflect and think about what they value. So like I said, no one is ever actually designing the life they want. They're just handed the script to them and they run along with it. And eventually what happens, they get a quarter life crisis, a midlife crisis, or they live a life that was actually not even theirs because it was inherited from a school. And what does a school do? It produces the status quo and doesn't want to change anything. That is why most kids do not have a life that they actually like. They're not taught to take risks. They're taught to just stay within the lines, color within it, be obedient. But the thing is that once you get older, you realize obedience is not a fucking virtue. You cannot actually live life that way. That is a life that will live unfulfilled. They're not taught anything because they're even taught, kids are even taught things like money management or how to work out. Because most schools, especially the school I work at, you're going at 8:30, get out at 4, so you're sitting in class, sitting down for basically 8 hours a day. And people assume that we just need to develop their minds. But the thing is that life is more than just thinking or living in your head. You have to work the body. The body is the vehicle for everything else. Health is wealth. But the school does not learn how to take care of that. And you might think, okay, well, how can we change it? And why do people let schools do this to them? Well, there's another reason why. Parents outsource the responsibility to the school, especially public schools. People see public schools as the parent institution to take care of everyone else. And they would think, well, I don't have time to teach them this, or I didn't learn it, so I'll leave it to somebody else. And when you do that, you give a little bit of freedom. It's a bit convenient, but guess what? You have no control over what your kid learns at all. And I'm not saying kids, I'm not trying to say like some culture war bullshit where like, oh, they're teaching the kids about gender ideology, things like that. No, I'm talking about what type of life your kid can want. Because the schools just teach them to get good grades, go to college, and that's it. Which is fine. I think you should go to college. It should be an option. But the idea that is your saving grace, or that if you just get the degree, you'll be fine. No, you have to be intentional with your life. But parents aren't involved, especially kids that are first generation, like the ones I work with, because they're just working and just trying to put food on the table. They're in survival mode. They think in a scarce way. But you need to be involved in your kid's life and instill those values in them. Because if you don't control your life or prioritize it, somebody else will. And they're going to give you a story that you're not going to probably agree with. But since you're not questioning it or taking responsibility for it, good luck with that. Because you're going to be living a life that you didn't ask for. And that's the problem with the school system. And when that happens, when parents outsource responsibility to the schools, the family institution is weakened. And the family is the most basic institution in society. And when the school takes that away from the parents, well, you're fucked. And you get people who all believe the same things, consume the same things, have the same values, and the unexamined life goes on. Now, here's the thing, in conclusion. Until we focus on the entire person, we have to understand that life is more than just succeeding or being materially off. It's how do you take care of your body? How do you, the greatest neuroses of the age is depression and anxiety, which a lot of kids suffer with apparently nowadays. So many kids have anxiety attacks or they have SSRIs. But what if we didn't try to numb them out with the medication, but we figured out how all the aspects of their life are functioning? Help them find work that they find meaningful. And also help them take care of their bodies, such as finding passion in working out, or just exercising in general. That is something they can like. And also, like, how do they connect with people? Most kids spend like 12 hours a day on their phone. In Texas, they try to use a phone ban them by putting them in yonder pouches. Guess what? The kids just learn to break them or not even use them. So until we learn to focus on the whole person and develop them to reach their full potential, the schools will continue to fail us, and they'll get us kids who will just continue competing the same script, living unexamined lives, and wondering once they hit 40 why they have this quarter life crisis. But what do you think? Why do you think schools fail us? And what can we do to help people become actually realized people? Thank you for stopping by. Take care.